Hello, welcome to Movies I Love with yours truly, Nomfanelo Malloy. So I'm continuing my conversation on Mission Impossible. So this video I'll be talking about Mission Impossible 4, 5, and 6. The fourth one, titled Ghost Protocol, came out in 2011. It is directed by Brad Bird, who's known for the Incredibles films, and this marked his live action directorial debut. The fifth one, titled Rogue Nation, came out in 2015. That is written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who's known for films such as The Usual Suspects and Jack Reacher. And the sixth one, titled Fallout, came out in 2018. It's also written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie, and the film stars Tom Cruise, Ving Rhames, and Simon Pegg. All right, let's get into this. So, let's talk about why I love these movies. So, first off, the titles. We're getting subheadings now for the film titles, which is an interesting choice. I like how with the subtitles that they use here, they actually fit in regards to the context of the films. So with the fourth one, titled Ghost Protocol, that is reflective of the initiative that the president ordered, essentially to disavow IMF after the bombing at Kremlin. The fifth one, Rogue Nation, that reflects, of course, the syndicate, who essentially is this rogue organization. Created by Atlee. Essentially, whereas a bunch of former agents, I suppose, they do off the books type missions without any oversight and all that stuff. And also, too, in a way, it reflects with Ethan Hunt and his crew going rogue, I suppose, because after IMF is dissolved at this point, where they go after the syndicate essentially, and they kind of break the rules and all that stuff, even though they have Alec Baldwin's character, Hunley, essentially going after them. And with Fallout, in a way, reflects, what happened after the events of Rogue Nation, with the syndicate essentially being dissolved, but kind of regrouped as the Apostles, which is led by Lark, I believe, and yeah, essentially. I mentioned in the previous video that the films were very different in regards to tone because of the directors with their directing styles, but I think also too they didn't really had cohesive direction of the movie. Again, that could be looked at as a positive or negative depending on how you look at it. But here in this case, there is some consistency. I don't know if that was intentional, but there was more cohesion there in regards to visuals, tone, and all that stuff. And I found with the movies here, they were not campy. There were some humor here and there, but they really focus more on the adventure, the missions, but also to having the stakes when it comes to the missions, and also to the villains that they have to deal with and all that stuff. And yeah, in a way that that could be a positive thing, but also too it could be a negative depending on how you look at it. But I would say on the positive front, I guess this direction works for the franchise as a whole in regards to that front. Now, of course, it has its pros and cons and all that stuff, but I would say from visual standpoint and with the tone, I would say it works on that front. And I liked, we have some new additions to the movie. But first, I want to talk about Benji. So, Benji, played by Simon Pegg, he was introduced in the third movie where he was essentially he worked in the lab, essentially. While here, like from the fourth one and onwards, he is a field agent. He wants to work in the field. I found that was an interesting choice because usually prior to that point, with the exception of Ving Rhames, they tend to have different IMF agents and all that stuff. But at least here we get to see um, similar people in the fray and all that stuff. But I would say, yeah, Benji, at least in these movies, he did a great job as a field agent. Of course, of course, like he has his moments and all that stuff. But yeah, he's quite capable as the agent, even though like he still does the tech stuff in ways, kind of shares similarities with Luther on that front. But he works as an agent. I mean, look notably with Ghost Protocol, because since there wasn't many IMF agents at that point, uh, they had to do a lot of heavy lifting, and Benji was able to keep up and all that stuff. Particularly, I would say towards like the end with the later half of the movie when they're in Mumbai with that sequence was great. And he also too in Rogue Nation, when it came to the whole Vienna sequence was nice what he did there. And um yeah, and I would say yeah, Fallout he did well too, when it came to that whole last act. But yeah, I would say Benji is not bad. Also too, Jane. I really enjoy Jane, played by Paula Patton. She appeared in Ghost Protocol. I am kind of upset that she only appeared in the one movie. I don't know if I read somewhere at the time where they wanted to have her back, but she couldn't because of scheduling conflicts and all that stuff. But yeah, like she was capable too as an IMF agent. I enjoyed her arc when with essentially her wanting to go after Sabine after Sabine killed Hanaway during that opening sequence of Ghost Protocol. And yeah, she has the skills, of course, as a female agent. Also, too, we have Brandt, played by Jeremy Renner. He's an interesting character because his character kind of wants to, I would say, go by the book. Essentially, we saw that more in Ghost Protocol, because after the death of the head of security, I can't remember his official title, but after when that happened, essentially, like it seemed like with Brand did not wanted to go further at some point, but in a way he had to go along with what Ethan Hunt and co wanted to do, essentially to clear their names and all that stuff. But and he had quite the tragic backstory when it came to essentially he had to protect Julia, but that failed and ended up taking a different position at IMF because of that and all that stuff. But then he was relieved when he found out that Julia is alive towards the end of the movie. So yeah, at least he got that weight off his soldiers. I would say Brandt is good and all that stuff as an agent. And what else I had here? Ilsa. Let's talk about Ilsa, played by Rebecca Ferguson. Her character, I would say, at least in Rogue Nation, is like the femme fatale type character. Because essentially, we don't know where she lies, essentially, because we think she's a villain, but then she helps out Ethan Hunt from time to time, but still appears to be loyal to Solomon Lane and all that stuff. And that's not until we find out later that she is an undercover MI6 agent and all that stuff. But yeah, she was a great addition to the franchise. And yeah, she has the skills. Like when we first see her in Rogue Nation, when she defeats the henchman with Ethan Hunt and all that stuff. And yeah, throughout the series, she has her moments, and she's great and all that stuff. I have more to talk about her character when I talk about Dead Reckoning and all that stuff, but I would say in this crop of films, she was a fantastic addition. The villains, I think overall they were pretty good. I really loved the Syndicate. They, in ways, are the are the, or as what Benji said, the anti IMF. They're essentially what the evil twins to the IMF, essentially, where they do so many things what they do, but they have no oversight, essentially. And with Solomon Lane, I would say he's more of like the intellectual type villain, where I mean, sure, like he's fine in regards to handling himself with a gun. Like we've seen that during his first appearance and towards the later half of Rogue Nation. But yeah, like he's quite the cunning villain, I would say. He's kind of up there in terms of villains of this franchise, I would say. And yeah, what else too? Yeah, that record store scene was quite heartbreaking. Felt bad for the female IMF agents, and then where Ethan Hunt essentially is kind of helpless at that point as he sees all that stuff unfolding. Uh, Henry Cavill, what he played August Walker, aka Lark, John Lark in Fallout. And I would say for me, this is probably that is my favorite role that Henry Cavill has played thus far that I have seen. I mean, he was fine as Superman, but I did not really like those films that he did for the DCEU. With Man from Uncle, I thought that was good, even though the movie, I would say, it has its moments here and there. But I would say I really enjoyed Henry Cavill in Fallout and all that stuff. And yeah, I would say, out of the villains thus far in the franchise, he is the more physical threatening a villain, because we've seen, if you've seen like the bathroom sequence in Fallout, man, what a scene that was. And of course too, during that final sequence at the helicopter was great. And I remember too, at the time when the movie came out, there was a whole big deal of his character having the mustache, and with the whole, what was it, he had to do reshoots for, was it Justice League, one of those movies where he could not shave off the mustache because apparently they had to digitally remove it, but apparently it looked noticeable if you zoom his face and all that stuff. See, that was that was widely talked about at the time and all that stuff. But yeah, like I enjoyed Henry Cavill as a villain in the this movie. The White Widow, played by Vanessa Kirby, she's not like a complete villain per se, but she's not a good guy either. Because in ways she kind of takes over the femme fatale um arc in this franchise, because essentially when Ilsa, after it's revealed when she becomes an agent after the end of Rogue Nation, because we see her more like in the MI6 type role essentially. But yeah, White Widow, like she is something there as the femme fatale, and she loves to flirt with Ethan from time to time in Fallout. And yeah, there's interesting relevation of her character in Dead Reckoning, which I'll talk about when I talk about that movie in another video. But yeah, she's great. The action, I would say, is solid in these movies. For me, the highlights were with Ghost Protocol when Jane and Sabine had their moment at the hotel. In Rogue Nation, I would say highlight is the motorcycle chase sequence and, of course, the last act of the movie. And then with Fallout, I would say, yeah, the last act with the team trying to disassemble the bomb, and then with Ethan going after uh, John Lark in the movie. So those were great to watch, and I would say they're solid repeat scenes. And yeah, the comedy, I enjoyed the comedy. Like, it wasn't forced and all that stuff. It's not cheesy. I would say the comedy is mostly used through Benji, because Simon Pegg, because he is naturally gifted with the comedy aspect. If you've seen throughout his career, that moment in Fallout with the Wolf Blitzer reveal, that was quite hilarious. And yeah, the mask. I said previously that the mask, you have to throw away suspension of disbelief. I would say, at least here in these movies, they don't look too cheesy. Of course, still, you kind of need to look with suspension of disbelief and all that stuff. But yeah, I would say they're not bad with the mask sequences here. Now, in terms of critiques, I don't really have too many critiques. For me, I just wondered why, like with Luther, was sidelined essentially in these movies. Um, because with Ghost Protocol, he just had that uncredited cameo. I think at the time, I've seen reports that, I don't know, there was some contract dispute and all that stuff. But I also wondered too, like, if they couldn't really do much with his character with these movies. I did like the moment when in Fallout, where it looked like we were about to lose Luther, when he's captured by the syndicate and all that stuff. But yeah, I just didn't really like him being sidelined in these movies. Also, too, I wondered in Fallout why Ethan still has feelings for Julia. It seems like that was resolved, at least by the end of Ghost Protocol, when they showed that Julia is alive, but had to fake her death and all this stuff because of what he does. And it was kind of weird that he dreams about Julia, but still has Solomon Lane in his mind, even though he's captured all that stuff. So I don't know. I think the movie did not fully explore that, but yeah, I just wondered why Seal is feeling. Maybe he felt like she is the one that got away and all that stuff. And also, too, I wondered though, like, because with the third one, Ethan retired essentially from IMF, and then, because I guess to be with Julia and all that stuff, but then was brought back, obviously. But then I wondered though why he continued to be an IMF agent. I mean, I think that I'll probably have to explore in another video when I talk about the franchise as a whole in regards to his role as an IMF agent and all that stuff. Also, too, I wondered the role of IMF here. So again, I'll have to talk about this when I talk about the franchise as a whole, but I just question why they end up being disavowed or seen in a bad light often. I thought the music choices were fine. Didn't really like stand out to me. I mean, it's not like a huge critique, but I wouldn't say it's a positive either. Like, they're just fine. Just fine. But yeah, that's all what I have today for this video. So um that's my thoughts on Mission Impossible 4, 5, and 6. So the next video I will talk about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, but it's not going to be a Movies I Love video. It's going to be a screen talk video because, spoiler alert, I did not like that movie at all. So stay tuned for that one. But anyways, I would love to know your thoughts. What do you guys think about Mission Impossible 4, 5, and 6? Do you like the direction of those movies? Any favorite moments, highlights, lowlights, all that stuff? Let me know in the comment section. Also, too, if you want to support me, you can visit buymeacoffee.com/numphymalloy, where you could donate either monthly or one time. But also, too, you could follow me there. I share posts exclusive to that platform and all that stuff. Also, too, if you want to follow me on social media, my links are in the description. So I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to catch you on the next one.